Often when we see celebrities, we usually just assume that they must be happy, healthy, and wealthy for the rest of eternity, because typically when you get put into the spotlight of Hollywood, they set you up nicely, you have fans, you're making money from big projects, but unfortunately things are not always what they seem. From family members stealing money to getting cancelled and losing gigs, today we're going to be breaking down the top 10 celebrities that lost it all and never recovered. But first, if you could do us a big favor and please tap that like button, we'd really appreciate it. And with that out of the way, let's begin. Coming in number 10, Shaun Weiss. Shaun first rose to fame when he played the goalie named Goldberg in all three Mighty Ducks films back in the 90s. With such a big start in the acting world, one would have assumed that he banked all of that hard-earned cash and is living comfortably. Although the reality isn't so kind. In 2018, TMZ reported that he had been arrested for intoxication and was found with methamphetamines. Friends of his told the media that they made an effort to put him into rehab, but their efforts failed due to long wait lists and his inability to stay out of trouble. On top of that, friends have tried to help him and give him a place to live. One person actually gave him a van that allegedly caught fire due to other meth addicts and a beef between them and Shaun. Those close to Shaun said that he was in dire need of detox, rehab, and medical aid, including dental work, because he had lost most of his teeth, which makes it difficult to eat. Thankfully, he still has some good friends who put together a GoFundMe that will hopefully help pay for his treatment. Coming number 9, Brendan Fraser. When you think of Brendan Fraser, the first thing that comes to my mind is the Mummy trilogy, at least, for me. Throughout the 1990s and into the early 2000s, Brendan was starring in many Hollywood box office films. Unfortunately, his movie career came to a halt when he began finding himself in and out of hospitals for nearly 7 years. Brendan had to undergo several spine surgeries as well as having a partial knee replacement. Then on top of all that, he had to get repairs done to his vocal cords. He was known for being an energetic character in his action films, but with so many injuries and health problems, this posed a threat to the way that he made money in Hollywood. After his divorce, his bank account was drained even further, and thanks to the way that the divorce system works in the US, his alimony payments were based on what he used to make. So he was then forced to pay over $900,000 a year in alimony payments, even though it was way more than his current annual income. Coming in number 8, Aaron Carter. Back in the day, Nick Carter's little brother was a huge teen pop star. With his quick rise to fame at such a young age though, he had quickly squandered the $100 million fortune that he had built after his parents mismanaged his money. Because of this, he was put in a terrible situation when he turned 18. When he became of legal age, he was hit with a bevy of taxes owed and had to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy after being over $100,000 in debt and owing somewhere in the ballpark of $4 million in back taxes. Hollywood lifted Aaron Carter to a level of fame unlike anything we had seen before. He was huge before Bieber was even mentioned in the world of music, but unfortunately when Hollywood was done with him, they tossed him to the wolves. For years, Carter would create controversies with his ill-advised Twitter rants and outlandish claims that Michael Jackson was passing the torch to him. In reality, the star was dealing with money issues, substance abuse, depression, and an ongoing battle to stay relevant. Coming number 7, Lindsay Lohan. Beginning as a child actor, Lindsay Lohan's breakout role started in the Disney 1998 remake of The Parent Trap. Later on in her career, she would get even more fame and notoriety for the success of Mean Girls. She seemed destined for long-term success, and everyone in Hollywood really believed in her. Unfortunately, that all began to crumble as her spending habits increased rapidly and legal trouble started coming her way. At 18 years old, she was worth over $30 million, and like many child stars, Lohan also started a terrible habit that was costing her nearly $5,000 a week. Then between 2007 and 2013, she was arrested a few times for DUIs, reckless driving, altercations, and even shoplifting. Coming number 6, Margot Kidder. First things first, rest in peace to Margot Kidder. She was the first famous Lois Lane starring in the early Christopher Reeve Superman films. According to Daily Finance, Margot was battling schizophrenia as well as manic depression. Margot knew something was wrong, but repeatedly refused help and treatment. Her career started to fall apart because of this, and before long, she was sleeping in cardboard boxes in whatever LA backyard that she could find. A woman even found Margot in her backyard and said that upon approaching Kidder, she was missing her front teeth and her hair had been hacked apart. When asked what she was doing there, Margot apparently told the Glendale resident, "I may not look like it, but I'm Margot Kidder." Coming number 5, Corey Haim. Sadly, I must start this point as well by saying rest in peace to Corey Haim. Corey was born in Toronto, Ontario and broke into the world of acting in 1984 as a child actor in the film called Moving In. His breakthrough role though would come in 1987 when he played a major part in a movie called The Lost Boys. 10 years later, he was filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection after citing that he owed over $200,000 in state and federal taxes. When he passed away in 2010 from pneumonia, he was living with his mother in an Oakwood apartment building. He was broke, his career was destitute, to the point where he was reportedly trying to sell a tooth and some of his hair on eBay just for some extra cash. Coming number 4, Willie Ames. I genuinely feel awful for the lives of these child stars. That all the stuff that they had to go through was just absolutely terrible, and Willie is no different. The former Gunsmoke star opened up during an interview in 2017 where he said that a series of poor choices mixed with drug is what led to him sleeping on the streets. He said, "At one point I went from eating at the White House to sleeping in the bushes, and during an episode of Oprah's Where Are They Now, we discovered that after battling addiction and homelessness, he got a job on a cruise ship as a director."
Say the The guests recognize me all the time. The guests recognize me about 60 to 70% of the time. And it's really nice when they do. It's a great way to be able to welcome everyone on board.
At the peak of his career on the show 8 is Enough, Willie was making a little over $1 million a year, then suddenly there was no work, no bank account, no wife, no child, and just like that, it all went away. Coming number 3, Stephen Baldwin. Not every Baldwin brother can be as successful as Alec, and for Stephen, this must have really been annoying considering how he just lost everything. Stephen Baldwin is best known for his roles in The Usual Suspects, Biodome, and Fred Claus, where he just plays himself. Because, why not? However, by 2009, Stephen filed for bankruptcy while still owing back taxes on a couple different mortgages, a trend that would continue to haunt the Baldwin brother. After missing mortgage payments for 6 years, his house was foreclosed in 2017. Then on a different occasion altogether, he was arrested and forced to serve 5 years probation for not paying his taxes for 3 straight years. Coming in number 2, Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes is a prime example to bring up whenever someone tells you that you don't need to pay your taxes, and boy did the IRS sure make an example out of him. The actor's portrayal of the vampire hunter Blade boosted his career into the stratosphere, although reportedly someone close to Wesley told him that taxation was theft and therefore he didn't need to pay. He listened and then was charged after not filing proper tax returns for 6 years. Additionally, he filed fraudulent returns that would then bring him close to $12 million in tax refunds. Come 2006, he was filing for bankruptcy, and in 2008, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for his crimes. Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, Gary Coleman. Gary's story is one of the saddest stories in Hollywood. Gary Coleman was a child star that made $70,000 per episode for the show Diff'rent Strokes. In the 80s, this was amazing money, and today that is around actually $218,000 per episode. However, by 1986, the show had come to an end, and unfortunately for Gary, his adopted parents and business advisor had severely mismanaged his money. Eventually, he won in a settlement against his parents, but it wasn't enough to keep him going. He couldn't find work anymore in Hollywood, and in 1999, he had to file for bankruptcy. Then to make matters worse for poor Gary Coleman, he got a job as a security guard but kept getting recognized and teased for trying to live a normal life. Again, may he rest in peace. But guys, that has been the top 10 celebrities that lost it all and never recovered. But before we get out of here, I'm going to check out some of your comments from the video titled Top 10 Reasons Johnny Depp Can Win Against Amber Heard. Mrs. Rimsky says, brilliant report, it's about time someone gave straightforward news in layman's terms. So glad you put Nichols in the spotlight and gave him an adequate analysis. Ha, you tried to trip me up on the inadequate analysis. I see what you did there, Mrs. Rimsky. I see what you did there. New All-Star says, first reasonably followed outlet to call out the judge. I really do love you guys. And we love you too. I appreciate comments like this. Ella Sandell says, I have never clicked on a video this fast and I just gotta say, wonderful video. Thank you so much, Ella. Again, really appreciate that. Scott Irish says, your outtakes are the best. Oh, there's a lot of them. I'm glad you enjoyed them. Rob Wilson says, hashtag me poo movement. You guys are the punniest audience ever. But guys, that is the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your host, Johnny Rogers, and until next time, stay classy, YouTube, or at least try.